James, how you doing today?
Good, Dustin. What's happening?
Not too much. I'm glad to be speaking with you.
You too.
Well, I know you have a show coming up with Fitz and The Tantrums at the State Theater here in Minneapolis, coming up on the 22nd. Can you describe, I guess, a little bit about what a show is like for maybe the listeners who haven't caught you guys yet?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess we're known for getting the crowd moving and getting a really great dance party going. I mean, this kind of sounds a little cliche, but we pride ourselves on actually connecting with an audience and making them move,
Well, I know you guys have, I guess just a few months ago here, your new album came out as well, so I'm assuming you guys are playing a lot of the new stuff?
Yeah, it's been a really great summer so far. Into the fall, we're just really excited to get back on this leg of the tour. The new record is really doing great, and we're excited that a lot of the songs are really connecting. We've got kind of a few surprises for people who've been following us for the last two records, but so far the fans have come along with us on the ride, and it's been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you about that. I know your sound seems to kind of change or evolve, from album to album. Is it ever a concern that some of the older fans might not like the new direction you go in?
Sure. I mean, we don't like to lose anyone, but I understand it for sure. I mean, we came out as a bunch of guys in skinny suits and a hot-looking girl, in a pencil dress. So obviously, from our sound and our look, when we first came out, we were kind of thrown into the Motown revival, wave that was happening at that time. But that was just kind of like one small piece of what made our collective musical experience. So, we wanted to kind of tap on some other things. With the second record, More Than Just a Dream, we just really tapped into our love for kind of 80s synth pop. And that surprised a lot of people. It shouldn't have been a surprise, coming from where we do and, what we grew up with. But a lot of people had a hard time letting go of, the real, Motown kind of beats that we had on the first record. But there was a through line. I mean, there were songs being written that talked about love and loss and all the things that we started out with. So people kind of went with it. This record, we're kind of just drawing on really needing to lighten the mood. It's really heavy out there these days, for everyone. And I think there's something to be said for just going and having a good time and dancing. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it's at for us right now, and we're really enjoying it.
Sure. Well, it seems like Fitz and The Tantrums, you guys started playing and then really kind of successful right off the bat. I mean, did you think that this band was going to be turning into the success that it has, or was it more of kind of maybe a one-off thing when you started out?
I don't think any one of us really had an idea of what it would become in the beginning. Our first gig was at a tiny spot called the Hotel Cafe in L.A., and a lot of singer-songwriters start out there, a lot of baby bands that, maybe no one had seen before, and we were one of those. So to come to what we're doing now, to come to the State Theater and places like that, is just really, we're just kind of pinching ourselves all the time. It's really great.
Well, James, I know you play, I guess, a little of everything, but mainly a saxophone. That's your instrument.
Yeah, that's right. I play alto and baritone sax in the show. I'm kind of spread out amongst a lot of different tasks these days as the songs have called for them. So I play a little bit of electric guitar. I play a lot of keyboards during the show, sing backups, do percussion, run around the stage like a maniac. It's kind of if there's a job to be done, I figure I'm kind of the Swiss Army knife of the band, and I can get it done.
Well, it seems like, back in the day, the saxophone was always such an important part of, rock and pop music. Doesn't seem like it's utilized as much as it used to be, but I mean, it's cool that you guys are leaning more towards that and not so much heavy on the guitar side.
Yeah, and in the beginning, that kind of set us apart too. I mean, we decided to keep it at the 6 people that we had, and it was kind of a calculated decision, just based on the sound that we got with the baritone sax, kind of, doubling up with the bass and doing things that maybe filling the holes that the guitar might have done, So I got into really playing like rhythmic parts on the sax and trying to make it work in a way that maybe a saxophone wouldn't work in a traditional setting, and I really enjoyed that. But it's also nice to come out on this album with kind of some more epic type, quintessential alto solos in the vein of, a lot of 80s bands and things like that. Come out front with it. It's been very cool.
Well, you mentioned the Motown kind of flavor, and I kind of hear a Stax maybe influence as well, but who would you say some
Absolutely.
of your influences are overall?
Well, speaking for me personally, I went through jazz school, and I came up in the great tradition of horn players, but at the same time, I've been soaking up just what's around me since I was a kid. So I grew up with Michael Jackson and all that stuff, and just an '80s kid all around, and a lot of like hip hop later on in the late '80s, early '90s. I just kind of went with what was going on, and it's all kind of been absorbed to what I do. Listen to a lot of early Jamaican music and different world music. So I'm kind of a hodgepodge, and I think everyone in the band will tell you the same thing, in a different way. That there's you got Prince influences and punk rock influences in the band, and just everyone's kind of like coming from this weird kind of eclectic mishmash of influences, and I guess that kind of like comes through. I mean, that's what we are. We're just kind of a strange mishmash that seems to work.
Sure.
And we try to filter it through this really just kind of party vibe, and I think it's been a real antidote to what's going on in the world lately. It's just kind of it gets a little dark out there, and you need some feel good music.
Well, do you know, James, coming from that kind of background and being more classically trained, or some of the hardcore serious jazz guys, do they kind of look down upon like maybe a Huey Lewis or Hall & Oates or some of these more kind of commercial bands that have sax in them? Do they kind of frown upon that?
Yeah, they might. I remember coming up through school and just being in a room full of sax players, and we'd throw out those lines, kind of like, go into "I want a new drug" or something, as a joke, and we'd all join in. But then, kind of like we were all in on it, but we all kind of knew at the same time we love this stuff. I think it's just being of a certain age, and you connect to what you connected with as a kid, and no matter how deep or intellectually profound something is as a student of music, you can also get with the feeling that it gives you. And for me, I mean, it's learning Charlie's solo on "I Can't Go For That," on the Hall & Oates song. I mean, that's like, we used to do that as like, making fun of cheesy '80s sax solos, but that's kind of my stock in trade these days. That's all coming back, and I have to do it in a sincere way. And I realized that actually I really did love all that stuff as a kid. Before I came through and started listening to John Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley and Michael Brecker, and realizing that those guys all came from somewhere, and everyone's coming from the same thing, basically. So you just kind of like, you draw from what's good and what you connect with, but you try to make it sincere.
That's awesome. Well, again, I know the Fitz and the Tantrums are playing at the State Theater in Minneapolis on November 22nd, and the new album just out a couple of months ago, but is there anything else maybe in the works or something else coming up?
Oh, man, we're just barnstorming back and forth across the country right now. I'm just really excited to get back to Minneapolis for sure. We always have a great time there. I've got a bunch of friends out there, and I'm really excited to see. And, we're just plowing forward full steam ahead with this record, and hope that people come out and experience it with us.
Awesome. Well, again, James, looking forward to the show, and the new album's great, and I appreciate you taking the time out with me today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, anytime. Thanks, man.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.